A very good morning to you, Geoffrey. Thank you so much for joining us. 9 years on, what can be said about this day? Is it being commemorated as it should be? We are not hearing or seeing government officials going out to Marikana and speaking to the community. The community is telling stories of how they are living in squalor. 9 years on, talk to us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us as the National Union of Mine Workers. Just to correct one thing, I'm the regional secretary of NU, I'm not the regional chairperson. And just going straight to your question, look, I think it's becoming a rhetoric, and one thing that we need to look into is to the issue around what really led to the poor miners having to die, and not lose focus as to what was the need. We must remember that workers died in need of better pay, and therefore we should not shift focus to say the government is not doing anything. Let us rather ask as to what is the company doing in respect of its workers to make sure that workers have a decent life and have a better wages. Because if we're going to really focus on the 34 miners that died, which we've always been saying as the National Union of Miners, to say it's not only the 34 miners that we should focus on. There are 10 people that died before then. What is it that we are saying about them? But overall, did they die in vain? What is it that the company is doing on behalf of its workers to make sure that what those workers died for is, at the end of the day, achieved, and workers see a better life for all. So us commemorating this thing over and over again, reminding the bereaved families of what they went through, I don't think it's going to address the initial need of workers on that fateful day.
You are on the ground, Geoffrey. Do you believe that the company that you speak of, that you say should take responsibility and should be the one that we are speaking about, is doing what it's supposed to 9 years on?
I'm not convinced that the company is doing enough. Look, first of all, workers died for a living wage of 12,500. 9 years down the line, you ask yourself as to how much is the lowest earning worker at that company earning? And if that 12,500 is achieved, then I would say maybe the company is doing something. But to this end, we are not convinced as the National Union of Mine Workers that those workers that died for the 12,500, may their souls continue to rest in peace. But I don't think that they died. What they died for has been achieved. And being on the ground, the thing that maybe the society or the company itself is doing is to play a divide and rule and play this thing of union rival. And then the moment we go to that route of having a union rivalry as an excuse not to attend to workers' needs, that is where we're losing it. And irrespective of union affiliation, we don't think that workers at the Marikana operation catered for. We are not convinced as the National Union of Mine Workers that the company is doing enough. And it's a challenge that we put into them to say, let us not continue commemorating these events in your premises when workers next to you are still suffering. That is our call as the National Union of Mine Workers.
Just before I let you go, Dr. Moatshe, can government play any role? I know you are saying that this should be the problem of the company that is, of course, in Marikana, but can the government play any role, and what role?
Look, provision of basic services will always remain the responsibility of the government. But now, the company equally has a social responsibility to look into those people who are living in squalor. We cannot turn a blind eye to that effect and say, what is the government doing? I'm not in defense of the government, but I'm saying in terms of provision of basic services, it remains a government responsibility, and we are convinced that the government should maybe pursue the company to say, what is it that you are doing 9 years down the line? And maybe form a partnership of some sort to make sure that these atrocities are addressed.
Dr. Moatshe, thank you very much. We'll leave it there with you. Thank you for joining us here on Newslink on ENCA. That is the National Secretary of the National Union of Mine Workers, Geoffrey Moatshe.